Hi, welcome to Two Non-Doctors. I'm Liz Mealy.
I'm Maria Shahada.
And I guess we just drop in now. We're like unexpected friends. There's no consistency. We didn't bring a gift. Um,
Yeah. It's been a while, so like I don't have any of the equipment like a microphone or anything. I couldn't find the thing that attaches it, the
mhm.
USB thing anyway. And so it's just like this will have to do.
We really are those friends that drop in that are just like, hey, I'm hungry and I didn't bring money and I'm just gonna go through your fridge. Is that okay?
Yeah, we're Kramer. We're gonna
Yeah, yeah. Um, how are you? I haven't talked to you in a bit, both in real life and in podcast life.
It's because it's your fault. I'm gonna blame
It,
you.
no, that is actually valid on this one. I was busy,
Being in love.
but no, my boyfriend got sick. My boyfriend has been sick for a month.
Yeah, in love.
I mean, as I was cleaning up my vomit, I was like, "Is this what love is?"
Yes.
Oh,
It
spooky.
that was really creepy. My door just opened like on its own, and not a fan of that at all. Because no one's here right now, so I hated that.
Oh, I legit thought somebody was coming in. Oh,
No,
super
no.
creepy.
Well,
Great.
I've been
I'm just gonna.
good. Yeah, just in London, and I'm going up to Edinburgh with Johnny for Christmas.
Nice.
So yeah, it'll be my first Edinburgh Christmas. I'm really excited about it. It's nice. I want to see the city covered in snow and not comedians' flyers. You know what I mean?
And not flyers.
Yeah.
It's interesting to me because when I hear Edinburgh, I find it triggering. So in my mind, I was like, it's not August. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be literally an eighth of the amount of people that are there in my mind, which
Yeah.
is the festival time. And it's going to be actually pleasant.
Like you did that festival in 2016 and you're still traumatized by it.
Oh, 100%. To the point where, like, when you've talked about it, because you've done just like regular gigs there, I have to remember that it's not for the festival, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or like if you go there just for a couple of days, like that's a different type of pressure than being there for a month and having to prepare and the flyering and the doing the show every night. And it's like, I'm glad I did it, but God, was it traumatizing.
And you've run the gamut in gigs in comedy. Like you've done everything. We both have. We've done like terrible gigs on the backs of trucks. Not that that was a terrible gig, but you know what I mean? Like we've done gigs literally everywhere you can think of in every scenario. And and Edinburgh was like that one was like mentally the most fucking exhausting and trying.
Because there's really no way to prepare for it. Even going to it, understanding it, talking to people, like every even when you're in the middle of it and you've done it for 2 weeks, you're like, I gotta keep doing this. Like there's no like at no point was like I've prepared for this. Like it's like with a marathon, like there's so many articles and there's so many people that are honest and they could tell you mile by mile what your body is gonna do. But like also like I didn't drink while I was there. I didn't party while I was there. I literally ate and worked and I was exhausted. So I don't even know how people are like doing cocaine, drinking through the night and like hooking up with people because I who has the energy and time after doing your show because I did an hour show every night. I did another 20-minute spot every night and then during the day I would do like 2 or 3 spots. And sometimes that was at noon and sometimes that was at 3 a.m. So it's just like I know
Yeah.
in general I shouldn't complain about working hard, considering, most days I work 10 minutes, but it was like, oh, I could see how I have not prepared for this amount of work.
I mean, the Edinburgh Fringe Festival needs its own podcast. Like there's so much to say about it. It's 4 weeks long. There's so many different aspects to it. And and I just remember, and this is the last I'll say about it, but I just remember going up 3 weeks in, fresh faced, coming up to visit you. And I was just like, oh, this is amazing. And you just zombies, everybody was a zombie.
Yes, yes, yes. You like woke me up. You're like, you want coffee? I was like, get the fuck away from me. It's like, love you, go away. I think the biggest thing is that like on top of all the work, it's like it's a financial ruiner. Like it's like financially ruined me, and I knew it was. But my experience was because of Brexit. It ruined me even more. But like the whole time, it's not even like I need to do this for career success. It's like, oh no, I'm shitting away money every time I do this. Like every day, I financially am more in the hole.
You're
So it's
just
just
letting
like
your audience
I don't
know,
know.
you're
I
like,
mean,
you people are not enough to make up for what I am doing here.
yeah, people would be like, "That was amazing." I'm like, "Well, where were your friends?" But I'm glad you get to rewrite your mental history of what that city is,
Oh yeah, 100%.
because there's definitely a sea of performers that don't like that city anymore.
Yeah. It's too bad because it's a gorgeous city. So
It is, it's so pretty. I hiked up Arthur's Mountain, there's, like, castles.
yeah. You're frozen.
You're frozen.
Oh. Am I actually, or are you just being a dick? Let's pause. Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
good.
Were you
No,
going?
no, it was perfect. We nailed it. Honestly, it's like we never stopped doing this podcast. We've made no mistakes. We've just
Yeah,
it
I'm the
has the
producer,
same
I guess. That's why it's always shit.
it's the same level of unprofessional chaos that we started it 3 years ago.
Yeah, like we're like children. Like, here's our gift, guys, and it's just like this messy, like
It's
chocolatey.
sticky,
Yeah, sticky. Exactly.
and you're like, "What is it?" Like, "I don't remember. Enjoy. It's expired." Ugh. You know what's so funny? Because I send you memes all the time, which is, like, when you can't, like 'cause, okay, my friend Amanda is one of the only people I exclusively keep in touch with via Marco Polo, like, video messages.
Yeah.
And I listen to him like podcasts. Like I'll be getting ready for a show and doing my makeup and I'll put it there. And she's like in her car driving to work and telling me about her day or whatever. And I'm pretty good. We send about 2 a week and sometimes it'll take me a week to get back to it if I'm traveling, but I'm pretty good about every couple of days getting back to her. I have not gotten back to her in 2 weeks. I feel horrible to the point where I was like, "Hey, I haven't listened to these. I don't know if you're and I've told her sometimes she tells me important things in these messages and I was like, "Hey dude, you can't. Like that's a text or a call. You can't send a polo that's like, "Hey, everybody's dead." Like you can't do that. So
I once like found a video, like a birthday message on Marco Polo. I feel like it was a year old. I was like, oh fuck. I
yeah.
had written you off.
Yes.
Obviously they don't care about me. And oh,
Yeah.
there's a message. And they
Yep,
love
yep.
me. And I'm a
Yeah.
dick.
And she's the only person I use that I use that app, and I like that it's fun that we have this special, relationship, and I really like it. But at the same time, like they're long. You know what I mean? They're anywhere from like 10 to 15 minutes. They're like little mini friendship podcasts. But I haven't gotten back to her in forever. And I've realized that like I find little ways to like let people know I'm thinking of them and that I'm alive, which I think memes and like, whatevers are there. But I've realized because my boyfriend got sick, like I'm at catch up like I'm a month behind both in work and in friendship in a way that I don't know if I've ever experienced that without giving somebody a heads up because usually it's like, hey, I'm going to be on the road. Like when we went on tour on the West Coast, I kind of let everybody else know like, hey, I'm getting ready for the special and I'm going to be a bit MIA and slow. And then he had surgery and it was supposed to be like 3 days later he was good and it was not the case. And we could talk about it in another episode, but it was one of those things where I was like, "Oh, I've never been like a sole caretaker before." Like I've never like
As your one of your many best friends. Because I almost said best friend. I was like, am I?
you are.
I've noticed your absence.
Yeah.
I understood your absence, but I've
Yeah.
definitely noticed your absence. And I had this whole ruse of doing another podcast episode just to talk to you again.
No.
No, I'm kidding.
The truth is that like I've had a couple okay, so my sister showed me how to let me backtrack a little bit. If something is important, I make people email me. So somebody will text me and be like, "Hey, blah blah blah," and I'd be like, "Hey, I'm space cadet. I'm about to head to a show. Email me." And the reason I like email is you can save as new. But I think with the iPhone update, you can now do that with text messages. And my sister showed me, and it's been a game changer because now, you know how you read a text and you're like, no, I don't have the capacity and I'm
Yeah.
gonna forget. And I forget all the time. And now, but what's crazy about it is the same way that my emails are like look insane. Like I'll have like 1,000, unread, but they're all like memos to myself. My text messages have become that way. And it's gotten even between the save as new and it being a tactic of remembering things. And then also because of everything that went down with Evan, I've just been like, I'm learning a lot about myself, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah. I purposely don't want to know how to save text messages because I can't stand like when I have notifications on my phone, I have to clear it all out immediately. And if I keep having notifications, like it'll stress me out. And honestly, I just want to throw my phone and my Apple Watch away. I don't even know why I have an Apple Watch. That was like literally the dumbest purchase. Like if you want to be annoyed every 30 seconds, get one. Just like it's so like all it does is tell time that I know. I'm sure it does other things, but that's all I know how to use.
And then you get a phone call and you're like,
One time I had to take the phone call on my watch because I didn't know how to access it on my phone. So I was in Boots, which is like a CVS, and I'm like, it was a booker, and I was like, hello, hello. I needed to
I'm
take
a
the call.
spy now.
Yeah,
What do you need? Whisper it.
the spy. Yeah,
I that's actually one of the reasons I'll never get I have the Fitbit and that's already too smart for me.
yeah,
I want a digital watch. I don't want anything else. I'm like at this point, like I'm not taking enough steps for it to have any other purpose. It's like a
yeah.
watch that just sometimes goes, "Are you dead?" Like you haven't
Yeah.
taken a
My,
thousand steps.
I think I've said this before, but my Apple Watch was like, uh, your heart rate is very high for standing still. Like however it worded it, I was standing still, but my heart rate was very high. I was like what? You've never done stand-up comedy before? Watch.
It's going through the activities. It's like you're not running, you're not doing yoga, you're not weightlifting. What are you doing?
Yeah, you're about to have a heart attack.
Yeah, and you're like, "No, I'm just doing this thing I love,"
Yeah.
quotations. "I'm really happy right now." Oh my god, that's amazing. God, that's such a good sketch too, like, everything that your smartwatch doesn't understand, where it's
Yeah.
just like, "No, I have 3 kids, like, I'm not doing an activity, I'm feeding my children," like, it's just
Yeah.
somebody like it's just like a bunch of men that don't understand other activities other than running and
Yeah.
sitting.
And it gets sinister. It's like, get rid of one of your kids. It's like,
Yeah,
whoa.
yeah, yeah. What? What? What's good for your health is if you only have 2 kids. That's just we saw it, science. I have you been doing any other traveling for comedy, or have you been pretty
I mean, no, I went to Glasgow, which was like the shows were good. Like
I love
I love
Glasgow.
Scottish. You love Glasgow?
Glasgow is one of out of, like, the top, like I would say my top 3 cities are DC, Sydney, and Glasgow.
Yeah, they're great audiences. They're
So good.
awesome. And then like there was a big fight that broke out by my hotel, like of like 100 guys all dressed the same, like it was Fight Club. And I think it had something to do with football. And it was football fans, but it wasn't Glaswegian fans. So it was like Edinburgh and Aberdeen, I think, and they were all fighting.
Do you know what my first thought was when you said that? I was like, "Oh, were they from Philly?" Like, I
Yeah.
just had this thought where it's just like, "Oh, they destroying the city?" I didn't know they traveled to destroy other people's cities.
My favorite part about it, Philly was okay. Let me hold on. Too many thoughts. My favorite part about it was like two women got involved, and like one woman was just like trying to break it up, so she dove into the men, and like their shopping bag went flying, and she was like, I'm fine," and then she went and started chasing them again. Like Glaswegians go hard, and
Amazing.
that was really fun. And then yeah, Philly is where. Do you remember there was like somebody who made a robot that
Dude,
went? What?
dude, was just talking about this, like, 2 weeks ago,
Are
and
you?
they tried to say Boston. I was like, "I'm telling you
I
110%
had that same fight with somebody
Philly. I
because
know it's Philly."
yeah, it was absolutely Philly. So what happened was like this robot had made it around the world. It was like what it started in the UK or somewhere,
Something like that.
and then like made its way through Canada, and like everybody would just it hitchhiked. It was like this hitchhiking robot, uh, and then it finally got to Philly where it met its demise. They beat it to death.
Yeah.
this beautiful little thing that someone created and sent, and like the good of humanity had kept it on its way, and then Philly was like not having it.
That story is, like, almost 10 years old, and A, it had an impact on everybody, but B, like, I remember reading it and being like, "That tracks." Like, of course it
Yeah.
was Philly.
Yeah.
Like, there in no way did I read that and go, "No." I went, like, "Yeah, that's what you get. Why didn't you skip Philly?" Like, why
Yeah.
would you do that? Ridiculous. Which is funny because that's where I'm performing tomorrow.
Oh, good luck.
Yeah. It's funny, they're great audiences. I mean, I feel like I have such a Philly personality growing up so close. I like, I'd never heard this before until I performed in California, like, 8 years ago, but I said I was from Jersey, and they were like, "Oh, New York Jersey or Philly Jersey?" And I was like, "Oh, Philly Jersey," which is such a, like, "What's your city?" And it was like, "Oh, yeah, Philly was my city." I mean, I've been here over 20 years, but I
Yeah,
have
I'm
the
surprised you
person.
claim Philly. That's crazy. I feel like you've been in New
Yeah.
York longer than you were in Jersey.
Yes, at this point, sure, but I think, A, my personality still got solidified clearly in Jersey, and the type of Jersey I am is close like, I my aggression and the shitty parts of my personality are Philly. You know what I mean? And, like, any kind of cool or, like, calm that's not true, maybe not
You don't have
calm,
any
any kind
calm.
of yeah, there's no calm inside me. But there's, like it's like, you could like, my boyfriend's Northern Jersey, like, he'd be more New York Jersey, and we're definitely different.
Yeah.
Just handles everything much better. But I mean, I still love Philly. It's still one of my favorite audiences. I the same way I trash Jersey, I still am I don't know if I would say proud to be from New Jersey, but when I went to college, I saw 2 different girls that had Jersey pride tattoos, and I was like, "Oh, I like that." I was like, it's like this love-hate relationship.
Yeah. Uh,
So
I went to Zurich twice. Like I hadn't been to Switzerland at all my whole life, and then I went like 3 times in 1 month. But the lady was starting a comedy club, and then she was like, "I want to book you for the 19th, and then 2 weeks later on December 2nd." And I was like, "Do you want like a different set?" She was like, "No, exactly the same set. I just want to like for the people who didn't get to come." And I was like,
aw.
"So you want me to fly to Zurich and then spend 1 night there and then fly back 2 weeks later?" She's like, "Yeah." I was like, okay. Okay. And then people, I mean, usually it's a Friday, Saturday thing, but like, fine. I should have had more questions because like she gave me money towards travel, but Zurich is incredibly expensive. Like Switzerland's expensive.
So expensive, and I liked Zurich better than I liked like, Geneva was like, "We don't need that anymore." Like, I just don't like, the food was disgusting and, like,
None
the
of the food in
audiences
Switzerland is good. Like Anthony Bourdain never
no.
went to Switzerland, and he said it's because like yodeling creeped him out. But I think it was because the food's not good. There's no
Dude, their chocolate is up to par, I'll give them that,
right.
but,
It's
like,
fine.
it's good, but it's not be there good, and I liked Zurich at least had some, like, city charm to it or whatever, but all the food in Switzerland, I was like, "Guys, do you not talk to other cultures, like, at all?" Like, how I think every time you go to Zurich, somebody should leave behind, like, a family cookbook, like, just like, "Oh, sorry, it didn't fit in my carry-on." Like, just such bad food,
They're so
and
rich they would just hire somebody from that country. Like I feel like Mexican tonight. They would just fly a Mexican in to cook for them.
also, like, I'm sure you agree, they're not mean, but they're not friendly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? So, it's like New Yorkers can come across I think we're more rude and in a rush. We're not I don't think we're friendly, but I think we have good intentions and good heart. We just don't have time for garbage, like, get to the point. But what I noticed with Zurich is there's not I found it, I almost like therapy had to help me. I was like, nobody's mad at me. Like there was like every time I went into a store, I was like, did I did I enter wrong? Should I not be touching things? Like I just like they aren't
Actually, I wouldn't
welcoming.
say in Zurich, people would smile as they walked by me, which I found off-putting. Just I felt like I have to like make eye contact and smile back because then I'm the rude one, but really I'm just trying to keep to myself. But I was like, okay. But what I also discovered is that their flat whites are cappuccinos. And so
And you're like, and I am angry, and I'm gonna
I
leave the
I
recipe
hate
for
foam.
that.
I hate foam. Yeah, I'm leaving. That's what I left my
You
You're
wrote it down on a napkin and you're just like, "I think you've been misinformed."
yeah. Yeah, I was at Pret. I was like, "Oh, sorry, I asked for a flat white, and this is all foam." She was like, "That's what a flat white is." I was like, "Okay, that is not what a flat white is. Can you just put milk in it, please?" Like, but I had to like rein in my Karen.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
not a flat white, but
yeah,
whatever your
yeah.
definition is, can I have some more milk?
You're like your phone with the definition, you're like, okay, I'm sorry. You know what? Let me put it in whatever Swissy language you have." Like, yeah, I mean, everybody was super nice. I truly enjoy there's very few places that I've performed that I was, like, never coming back, but I have to say as an overall experience, like, good example is Glasgow, couldn't understand a word anybody was saying, had the best time. Like,
Yeah.
everybody's super nice. I'm there, like, leaning in, being like, "Just let's slow it down." I'm almost positive this is English, but I'm not grasping anything. But they were, like, dark and fun and, like, I don't know, man, I just there's certain cities that and it was beautiful. So that between like it being a beautiful city and then the audiences being incredible, like that's really my like beauty plus food plus, audience response is like how I'm like best city in the world. People are like, "What'd you like about it?" I was like, people thought I was funny and I had a crepe.
Yeah. So if you do well in Philly, like all is forgiven with that robot. So you guys are all right.
Oh yeah, no, I always do well in Philly. Everybody's super nice because we all have the same personality and they have good food. Like you can't
Yeah.
I'm gonna go back,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
oh man, it's funny because I've been you helped me get ready for my taping over the summer and I pretty much just finalized my special. Like it's like I just got it like 2 days ago and I think I have a new hour, which is wild.
That's wild.
And you know what's wild about it is like I'm kind of proud of myself, but I'm like, "Oh, I got to do this again." Like like literally the touring, getting ready for it, the organizing everything and the taping of it, then the editing of it, which by the time it comes out, people are like, "Oh, I love it," and you're like, "Do you?" Because it's horrible. I watched it 80 times, and my eye twitches a little bit right there, and my nail art seems a little off in that shot. Like just
Oh God.
insane things.
Remember when I finished my album and I was like, it's shit. And then you called me, you're like, is my friend crazy?
Oh my god, I remember that so clearly to the point where I was just like, how do I softly tell her that she's mentally ill? Like, you know what I mean? Like, is she not hearing the laughs or the laughs at an octave she can't hear? Dude, it was I thought I was gonna listen to you fumble jokes and then people booing. That is how you presented your album. And then I listened to it and I was like, this is a perfect album. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
It's so
Like,
crazy if you like you just don't like have any sense of what's good or what isn't when it comes to yourself and you're just like this is the worst thing I've ever heard and then you're like you called me and you were like you're mentally ill and I was like thank you.
thank you so much. Dude, but the same thing happened with Adrian. So Adrian Appalucci, me and Evan went to her she did 4 shows. We went to the first one and it was great. It was great. There was a couple lulls because she's really dark and she's talking about like political stuff and like she's not for everybody. But if if a 10 is a perfect show, she had a 9,
Yeah.
right? And you're doing 4 shows, you're editing it together. You don't need anything more than a 6, to be honest. You could do movie magic, and I've told everybody that. Just good enough, movie magic, all it needs to do is be edited into a 10. But she did a 9, and then she did a secret show because she's so dark and fucked up, they wanted to see how, like, people that don't know what she does, how they react, and
Yeah.
could you imagine? I think she did, but I wasn't there for that one, but she said it went horrible. And then she
Wow.
was doing 2 shows the next day. So I called her up, she's like, "I'm quitting comedy, it was awful, I bombed," and I was like, "You did not," but, like, I mean, she was like, "It was the worst thing that's ever happened." I was like, "Hey, I would tell you if it was the worst thing that's ever happened. It isn't. You have another couple of shows, but, like, if that was it, you're gonna be great." And then because she was sad, I went to the first show the next day, and she, like I think she did an 11. She, like, murdered, like, murdered.
Plus she
And
filled 4 shows with her people. Like,
yeah,
what? You know.
yeah. I'm proud of I mean,
It's just yeah.
but, like, the way I was helping her, the way I was helping you, I mean, same thing back. Like, you can't be in it. Like, when I was done my taping, I wasn't happy. I was like, I hated my hair. I didn't feel like attractive. And I don't know what that was because I had professional makeup done and I did think it was pretty, but I had like, you almost get like body dysmorphia because you're like looking at cameras and then people are like, blotching your face. Like it's just whatever. And then I nailed the words in the first show and I felt calmer, but I felt like maybe I was tight. Like, when you're just like, I did it, but maybe
Yeah.
I'm stiff and we can tell that we're stiff, even if nobody else can. So then I was more relaxed going into the second one, but then I was getting tired and I started to fumble my words. And even though I knew it was locked in the first one, I was really hoping that the first one was like almost a warm up for the second one. And I got in my head, I was like sad for 3 days. And then as soon as I saw the rough edit, I was like, you dumb dumb. You dumb dumb. You messed up like 2 lines in the second one. I made it seem like I stopped telling comedy. Like 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 I made it seem like I just started reading and I did great. They both were great shows, and I knew that. But there's something like your brain like rewrites history. Like it's like it's it, it's like that kind of piss colored glasses, but it'd be like if I was just like, "Hey Maria, you look beautiful." And then you walk away and you're like, "Did she call me a bitch?" And you're like, "Wait,
Oh,
none of
every
the same
interaction I
words."
have. Yeah. Literally every time I walk away from anyone, I'm like, "They hate me."
We're like, "I think we bought your album, gave you a hug, and said you're a gift from God."
They pity me.
Ugh, just a level of broken that just I am, but I do think, you have one album under your belt. I think Adrian's done an album and this is a special. Carmen's done 2 albums and then she just did a special that just came out and her and Adrian came over for like the viewing of it, which was really fun. Carmen left in the middle of the viewing. She went into my bedroom and she goes, "You guys can continue watching. I can't watch it anymore," which is
I
insane.
I remember when Carmen was when you were living together and she was going over her recording of her set, and I just heard her from the other room going, "Oh God. Oh my God." Oh.
But, like, in the middle of her viewing, like, my mom's there, Adrian's
Yeah,
there,
no, I
and
get that.
she just literally goes, "Can I go in your room?" And I go, "Sure." But, like, she has to interact with because when you premiere on YouTube, you chat with your fans. So I'm texting her being like, "Hey, this guy said something nice," and then I would see her be like, "Thank you." Like, I was like, "Carmen, just
Like
I
tying a
swear."
noose around her neck. Thank you so much.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm just, like, lifting it up. I'm just like, "At least say thank you. He gave you $20." Insane. Absolutely insane brain chemistry.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I was listening to this podcast on Agatha Christie, and she got to the point where she was like, she would write books over the winter, and then the summer was for enjoying time with her family and editing the books. And then it would come out around Christmas time. And she did that every year. And I'm like, bless you. That's the life.
That's
Like,
oh,
just that's the life. She's just like, yeah,
I don't know if it's happening again.
you're just allergic to anyone talking but you.
Shut up. I've missed you. Um, sorry. I like that timing. Like, and that's what the goal is, right? Like I always say, like I want to tour like Jim Gaffigan, which is he has 2 separate tour seasons in a year. But you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
almost like school, right? You tour in the winter, then you take the summer off, and then you tour in the fall and you take like, the Christmassy time off.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. I was just saying because it reminded me of you and like, because like you know, the whole like process of doing an album every year. Um, It would be nice to like get to the point where that's like how much I was producing work. It was just, but it was like, this is my time of year to write, and this is my time of year to have fun, and this is when it comes out, and so on. And then, I mean, she made hundreds of dollars.
I it's funny, I'm starting to get and it is interesting, like, you don't completely have control, like, because this is my 5th hour, but, doing the specials takes longer to edit than the, albums, and then and organizing it, but also, like, because the first time you put out an hour, you've never cleared the slate before, it's daunting, you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
you're just like, Etch a Sketch cleared it, and you're like, "Oh, I have nothing." But now that I've done it several times, by the time I know I'm, like, 80 and 90% done, I'm already writing new stuff, so by the time it's polished, I usually have about 15%, 15 minutes of new stuff. So by the time it comes out, I often have a half hour of new stuff. And like now, like this will probably come out in, I think, March. And I will probably have, I'm already have about 40, 50 minutes that are like at an 80% level that I think I might tape again in April or May, which is like nuts.
Yeah.
But it's also cool to watch me polish my process at the same time that I'm polishing my act. Like I can see now, it's funny when we think about like a George Carlin who turned over his hour every year and you're like, how did he do that? But once you start to get it, you do start to see how you could, you know, Ford and you know what I mean? Like Ford Motors this and make it more
Yeah, it
efficient.
becomes like really efficient.
Yeah.
Um, so do you want to talk about your panic attack?
Yeah, because that's what my Google is too.
Oh, it's your Google also. Okay.
Yeah, well, it's
There's
related to it.
there's 7 minutes left on this, so we can talk about your panic attack and then come back for Google's, or we could just end this now and then come back for everything.
I think do the panic attack and just give me a heads up if I'm talking too much, but I think I can make it concise.
Okay.
So essentially, um, I think it was a few things that caused it, but I performed in Baltimore right after Thanksgiving, and my boyfriend got surgery November 14th. I think that's the right date. So like mid-November. And that was its own like, I mean, I for 2 weeks I just was like, oh God. Um, and like worried and taking care of things and like canceling stuff and just trying to figure things out. And then also, you know, had been touring all before. I was already burnt out before that, and then was trying to like slowly get things to kind of together. And then I was like editing. So I just feel like personal life and professional life, I was kind of burnt out at the same time, and that usually doesn't happen. Um, and then just it's a lot of I was doing a lot of driving. I don't know. I think it was a mixture of a bunch of different underlying personal and professional stresses, but I felt good driving there. That's the other thing with like panic attacks is like this one I do think I know what caused it, but I've had a couple where you're like, I felt fine. I mean, maybe I was stressed, but I'm like kind of always stressed. So what says that this stress is more stressful than other stress? Like, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? But um, my mom came with me. We were driving. I found out my baby brother has a girlfriend and we were just
Oh,
gossiping. Like it was like actually a really fun drive because my mom didn't know how to say her name and I was just like, I'll get the scoop. I was like, am I allowed to know? We've already had dinner with her. It's very exciting. Um, but like it was a really fun drive with my mom because we were just gossiping about Greg the whole time. And then show was good. It was sold out. It's my fans. Like it could not have been a better setup and a good place. But I think I got thrown off. I messed up a joke and I couldn't finish it. There's times where I've messed up a joke and I can get back in it and it makes me sad, but if I can finish it, it's like everybody makes mistakes. But I
yeah.
couldn't finish it, so I moved on. And then I started another joke and I messed it up and I couldn't finish it. And I realized that I wasn't okay. And so I talked to the audience about it. And in talking to the audience, I just had started having a full-fledged panic attack. Like just like I don't know how it works for other people, but basically my whole body got hot, which I was like, "Oh no." And then I started shaking, then my heart started pounding, and I could tell that I was scared. And that's the thing is that like sometimes you have a panic attack because it's a legit threat that you maybe embellish, but this is no threat. And I'm not scared of my audience, I'm not scared of whatever, but I realized what was happening. And I said it so flatly. Like, I'm sure I've told you before. I was actually talking to Prakash about this because I just like I realize now that when I say it out loud, it takes like 10% off because it's like this is what's happening. I'm letting everybody know this is what's happening. But I was like, I'm having a panic attack. Give me a second. And I just remember looking at my set list because I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to look at them. I went to
Yeah.
look at my set list and it started like melting. You know what I
Did
mean? Like
it
it was all
like it was
it
an
was like
acid trip?
No, not like an acid trip, but it's like the words are all jumbly. It doesn't look like words. Like, you know how sometimes you use something to leverage yourself? Like if you're scared or you're worried, you'll use something to kind of put you in reality. And I was like, oh, I'll just look at my set list and see where I am in my set list. And I was like,
Oh,
no, those aren't words. And I
all
went
the
back.
letters in your set list were like, "Panic."
Yeah, yeah, they came together to form. So I and that threw me off even more. I look at them, somebody started cheering. I was like, please do not do that. And it's weird to be like, hey, I just need you to be silent as I get my shit together with all the
Yeah,
lights on me and all the chairs. But they were really great. And what I've learned is I just started telling them what I'm like, what my thought process is and what I'm gonna do, which is I've been doing my set right now is like 30% old stuff, like from this special that hasn't come out yet, and the rest is new. And I went, hey, I'm gonna go right into new stuff. It's not chronologically, it's gonna be jumbly and all over the place, but I just think I need to be with something that's more present so that because that the words aren't solidified in my head so that I can be active in telling the joke and in that activation maybe distract myself. And they were like, go for it. And so I'm shaking, my voice is all shaky, but because they were my fans and because they were so good, like as even though I probably wasn't the best performance of this joke, um, they laughed. And that laughter is so comforting. So then I go to the next joke, they laugh, that's comforting. And by the third joke, I'm probably about 80% better. And I did a full hour. It felt like while I was doing it, I got into it and I felt good. But as soon as I was done, I remembered what happened and I got really sad and just really embarrassed. And so I signed books. I was like apologizing to people. It was like I felt I felt like I handled it the best I could, and I've never been in that position before, but I found myself like the underlying message of my head was you've been doing this for over 20 years and you had a panic attack on stage. Like what an idiot. Like you're like this kind of you're not good enough dialogue. And I got in the car with my mom. And I don't know if you're like this, but like when I'm upset, if somebody hugs me, I start crying. If I sit down, I start crying. Like there's certain
all you have to do is
triggers.
ask me how I am, and I'm like,
Blah.
as soon as you look at
100%.
me, I'm like, "Oh my god."
And that's what it was. I opened the car door. I realize I'm not okay. I sit down. I look at my mom. I was like, I'm going to start hysterically crying. Give me a second. And I just started bawling. And my mom's not great in those situations. My mom's like,
That is exactly how I pictured her.
and she's like, I know she's there and I'm happy she's there. And I know she gets it. But at the same time, I mean, she was just like, I thought we went through it. You fixed it. Like, why are you sad? But I mean, I feel better about it. I understand it more. I posted about it, but well, I see the timer. So yeah, it was weird. And what's interesting about it is that I did feel, even though it took me a couple days to process it, I did feel like I was able to finish my hour. People were super supportive. I made it, I figured it out in the moment. And I felt like all the panic attacks I've had not on stage kind of gave me a couple of like insights of how I could get through it, even though they're a wildly different scenario. So I ended up posting about it for two reasons. The first reason was like, oh, I did something happened that I've is like clearly I've had panic attacks, but never like that. I was dealing with the emotional aftermath of being like embarrassed. So I think it was just a kind of another way of processing it. But I had gotten through it and I was just like, I just want to talk about how I got through this in this scenario. But what was surprising is I know other comics clearly have had panic attacks and probably have had them on stage, but like I got so many like really cool messages from like musicians and comedians and other people that talked about having panic attacks on stage and just how they got through it and that clearly it's not a barometer of talent or abilities or even hesitant because like I think I started my post was like I've been doing this 21 years and I feel embarrassed and like Jim Norton reached out and was like dude 13 years in I started having panic attacks almost every time I was on stage and I wasn't new. It had nothing to do with my abilities. And I ended up recommending a book and I had so many cool people people I was close with and just like, let's say coworkers that said, and like fans that also were in like the performance space, and then just people that have panic attacks in general. I was actually quite surprised um, by the response. And I haven't been able to get back to most people, but there's so many things that are awful about social media. It was one of the few moments where I was like, "Oh, I get this. Like, I do feel less alone." And it did actually take, I processed a bunch of my own. Writing about it was a little bit more processing it. And then the response from people, like, just kind of like, you know what I mean? Like, sealed it up and made me be like, all right, it happened and it is what it is. The other reason I posted about it was just sometimes these things unlock something. Like Amanda had a panic attack while driving like 15 years ago. And then every time she got in a car for 3 months, she had a panic attack. So sometimes your brain is like, this is where we
That
panic.
that happened
Like
to
it
me.
like,
That happened to both of us, or did you mix this up? Because like
no, it
I,
happened to Amanda in college.
yeah, yeah, because I was driving to college and like that's when I had my first panic attack, and I called an ambulance because I didn't know it was a panic attack. I thought I was
Yeah.
dying.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so every time I drove back to Athens from Columbus, I would have one or like come close to having one. And so it was like wherever I would have one would be triggers for the next one. And it's like once you start thinking, uh-oh, I think I'm having a panic attack, that somehow makes it worse, and then you just
Yeah.
have one.
Yeah. No, I think I understand that concept and I've been through it. So I think another thing was like if this happens again, I kind of need to give like a heads up. But I've been fine. I think it's going to be fine. Um I have them about 2 to 3 times a year right now. I had more of them during the pandemic, but I think for all the reasons that everybody knows that it made sense. So just I think the last one I had before that was while driving. It was a really bad one in last September, so not this September, but the previous one. So maybe I was due. Maybe it was just like, how about now? Like I don't. But it has been like a uniquely stressful year, and I think while in that moment I might have not felt stress, I do think there's some like unconscious stuff that you're like, I'm handling it, and your brain's like, you weren't.
Are you? Are you?
Are you? Yeah, it's just that friend that's like, "I don't think so." You're like, "How are you doing?" You're like, "I'm good." And they're like, "I don't think so."
You're shaking
So,
and you're sweating and
yeah.
you're crying.
So, what was interesting, so this is where my Google comes in. Got lots of messages, very grateful. Everybody was super kind and I learned a lot, and it was like I said, it was like one of the few times the internet was like, "You're not alone." And I was like, "I'm not alone." And like it felt like a hug. But my Google was based on a message somebody wrote. All they wrote was panic attacks are gut related. And I was like, I feel like I've heard that. And clearly on this podcast I've talked about my gut issues. And if I'm being really honest, I'm drinking a mocha right now, not good for your gut health. I've been eating so much junk food. I've gained weight. Like I am eating trash. And that all throws off my gut. I had like just like a really rough period. Like, and that's like when my period is shitty, I'm like, oh, my gut is angry.
Yeah,
Um, so I know my gut health is off. And I'm not saying it's like gut equals panic attack because I think it's a bunch of stuff, but I do the same way that like I know my period is worse because I've been eating garbage and my gut is off. Like I think it all kind of layers. So I Googled are panic attacks gut related? And I I mean, I think we all
wait,
know.
let me pause for a second just because it's cutting in and out so much. All right.
Okay, so I Googled is are panic attacks gut related, which again, I know intrinsically they are, but like what to what degree? So it said a troubled intestine can send signals to the brain, just as a troubled brain can send signals to the gut. Therefore, a person's stomach or intestinal distress can cause or can be the cause or the product of anxiety, stress, or depression. And that's because the brain and the gastrointestinal system are intimately related. The biggest thing I've learned from reading about this is that it's a two-way street, right? So your brain can influence your gut and your gut can influence your brain. So it says like unfortunately in someone with IBS, a vicious cycle can result where the presence of reoccurring digestive issues can cause panic attacks, and an episode of panic can then result in an onset of more punishing physical symptoms. And then I looked up what are the triggers of a panic attacks. Triggers of panic attacks can include over breathing. Cool. You're
Overbreathing.
just like, cool, bro. Like you breathe too much. Over breathing, long periods of stress, activities that lead to intense physical reactions, for example, exercise, excessive coffee drinking, and physical changes occurring after illness or a sudden change of environment. And then that two-way street thing I was reading about, um, a scientific review published in May of 2019 in General Psychiatry, yeah, suggests that gut microbiota regulate brain function by way of gut-brain axis, a communication network through which the brain can influence the gut and vice versa. Preliminary evidence shows that imbalances in gut microbiota, I see microbiome, but this is spelling it not that, can exert a powerful influence on the brain via the gut-brain axis in ways that affect anxiety. What's more, disturbances in the neurotransmitters, brain chemicals that send signals through the body, may play a role in this psychological condition like anxiety. It was, I don't know, I just found this like all.
It's funny because like it's basically saying like comfort food is what causes you stress. So it's like the real comfort food is salad, and
Yeah,
you're having cupcakes, and it's like, nope, like that. It's like that
it,
Simpsons quote, like, ah, cupcakes, the cause and solution to all my problems.
yes, exactly. So it's interesting because I do see it. Like I remember being in college and realizing that my anxiety isn't just bad anxiety, like being excited for a date or being excited for a show, um, where it's not nervousness. Like, I mean, I guess it is nervousness for both of them, but like the excitement anxiety would cause me to overeat or eat sugar or stress out the same way of, oh no, this isn't going to go well, or oh, this person is late, or like whatever else would cause these kind of baby levels of anxiety. And I have the same coping mechanisms. But as you can see, like, okay, I'm nervous, so I eat cookies, and then the cookies upset my gut, and then my gut being upset causes more anxiety, and it just becomes layered in that sense. But then what it's also saying is like your stress can make your gut be thrown off, and that's one way. But also if you eat crap and your gut's thrown off, then that can also influence. So it's like back and forth. Like my IBS could be, let's say I ate like, a princess and I ate perfectly and I did everything I was supposed to for my health. Just the act of being stressed and anxious about outside stuff can influence my gut to have IBS. And I do see with all the changes I've made, I have been in a situation where like, why am I still having stomach issues? I'm eating like literally perfectly, but I live a stressful life, and I have underlying stressful issues with how I manage my stress, would be how I put that.
Yeah, it's a good thing you do stand-up comedy. The
Yeah,
least
it's a good
job.
thing every day I'm a little stressed. And like that's the other thing is I remember talking to my therapist years ago and she goes, "Well, you live a stressful lifestyle." And I was like, "I'm not." I was like, "I don't feel stressed right now." She goes, "Yes, but you between how you grew up and how you've situated your life, you're always here at stressed. And then when you say you're stressed, you're actually up here.
Yeah.
So your level, you say here you're not stressed, but you are. This is still stressful. You've just managed it and know what it feels like, and it doesn't feel like stress, but your body's still putting out cortisone and still managing that level of stress. So it's just like I think I have to be overwhelmed to use the word stressed, but that doesn't mean that my body and my head isn't stressed.
Yeah, you forget that your base level of stress is like everyone's like worst nightmare, and you're like, I just live with this every day. My
Yeah, no, this is how I live.
my therapist was like, "You chose quite a masochistic career," and I was like, "No, I haven't." And I was like, "Yes, I have." It is such a career that beats you up. Yeah, I'd always complain that like for so long I would like be like, I'm so anxious all the time. I have all this anxiety. And then I realized I drink like 8 cups of coffee a day. And I was like, I wonder if it's the coffee that's been causing this anxiety. And I cut down to 2 cups of coffee. And honestly, yeah, it helps a lot. And you've been drinking more coffee because you don't normally drink coffee.
Yeah, I used to only drink coffee like when I was on the road and I was super tired and I was gonna die. So it was like once a week, if that. And then I started touring even more and just being tired. So I'd get into a city and be like, hey, I need to rally. And I would have a cup of coffee. And then you just, you enjoy it. It improves your mood. It's sugar. Like, so then I was like, I'll have it. So now I'm up to having it once a day. And sometimes on bad days, I have it twice. But I actually read somewhere that coffee is worse, or not coffee, caffeine, we'll say, is worse for women because it affects our hormones in general are always more in flux than men's hormones. And then caffeine, we're very sensitive to caffeine, and it really like affects us. And I see it like whenever I read anything about balancing your hormones, helping your gut, the first thing they say is get rid of caffeine. So I do think, me, when my promises to myself, I do hope by January 1st, 2nd, 3rd, somewhere early January, I would like to go off caffeine.
You drink so much sugar in your coffee that you might as well just get decaf because you can't taste the difference anyway. Like,
Sure. And sometimes when I need coffee, but I don't want to be like wired, I'll do decaf because there's a little bit of caffeine. But I do also, sugar throws you off. It's not good for you. The way I drink coffee is like melted ice cream. I
yeah.
want to I I can drink green tea with nothing in it. And I could have decaf green tea. I can have in just something that is a little bit of caffeine, but not as much as coffee, or even I've gone months without caffeine. It's a little bit of an adjustment, but if I'm not like touring, let's just take the time. Like I have like 2 weeks before I go back on tour. This is the time. I don't need a cup of coffee. I'm not doing anything. I
Yeah.
just, you like it.
You get into a habit. Like it's like easy to form this habit because it's tasty. And it's just like, it's the time of day. It's like kind of breaks up your day too. You're like a
it's
guy
a
here,
warm hug.
reward. It's a warm hug.
And the way I drink coffee now is associated with friendship. Like I'm gonna go meet you. I'm gonna go meet Hurry. I'm gonna go meet like a friend. And like I met with Nitika yesterday, and I got this cinnamon honey latte. It was incredible. It was so good. And then Nitika had made gluten-free cookies. I had a cookie, so I ate a cookie, and then I had this latte that was like perfect. And I'm hanging out with an old friend, and all of a sudden I was like, "This is your brain is like, this is what happiness
This
is."
is happiness. This is what it's all for. This is perfect. Yeah. And then you have a panic attack and
And then you're just like, "You did this to me, latte."
it's just not fair that like all the good things in life come with the other side.
Yeah.
uh yeah, it's garbage. Um
What'd you Google?
so I had several Googles. I didn't know if we were doing just one, but I'll go through them fast.
Whatever
Why
you
do
want.
some people walk so heavily?
Oh, interesting. I
You
have a
ever
bunch
notice
of.
like there's just some people that just like, huh? What'd you say?
I was gonna say this is such a Maria Google. I'm so excited. Why
It's
do
such
some people exist to ruin my life?
I mean, honestly, it's such a misophonia Google just because like upstairs neighbor, like just like I you hear one and not the other. And it's just like you don't have to walk like that. You know that? Like you don't
Yeah.
have to just people just pound their feet. Like Johnny lives with grown men. I never hear them. Like they don't stomp. Some people just stomp. And then there was no good explanation other than like, and this is a Quora entry, so it's just someone else guessing, but muscle imbalances, balance problems, and footwear. Some people lean forward too much, and so they're breaking.
Well, yeah, they're falling.
Yeah, they're falling. I always think it's like a heel thing. It's like you're just stomping on your heels instead of like using your whole foot to walk. Um, and some people dream or they drop their legs downward instead of forward. But I mean, it's just like walking wrong essentially because you don't have to stomp.
Yeah, but think about when you watch a little kid learn how to walk. It's, you know what I mean? It's like there's no control, and every step is like, "Oh, I did it." And like you see people walk like that, but it's also just like a lack of okay, walking in general becomes unconscious, right? It's like brushing your teeth, it's like anything, you do it enough, you're not thinking about breathing, you're not thinking about walking. It becomes second nature. But I do think there's certain things that if done wrong or not I'm going all over the place, but like I think one of my brothers had to get like a like speech therapy. Like, they learned how to talk, but like things weren't being pronounced right and there was some issue. So then you get speech therapy so you can kind of get back on track. And it's almost like you wish there was kind of like these other things where somebody could be like, "Hey, you're going to ruin everybody's day for the rest of your life if we don't teach you how to walk better."
Yeah, exactly. You're just gonna piss the people below you off.
Yeah,
Um,
like, "Hey, you're going to have to own a house and not have a wife if you're going to continue to walk this way."
yeah. Um, does mint make you feel warm? So I was watching football with Johnny and his flatmate, and I was like, a lot of people chewing gum in this picture because it was like the coach and some people behind him. Again, misophonia. And and then they both were like, well, it just makes you warmer. Or maybe just Johnny said that. And I was like, is that true? And I didn't find any evidence supporting that. Because if anything, it says the menthol interacts with the receptors in your mouth, which can make you feel cooler.
Yeah, that's why it's like all the gum is like mint cool like cool mint. Like
Yeah, but like, yeah. Why? So you can feel cool? I mean, because that's not like you wouldn't think like
no, but
it's
like
hot, grab a mint.
have you ever had like a really strong minty gum and then you breathe out of your nose and you're like,
Yeah.
"This is science. I'm shivering." I'm like, "Science."
Yeah. Yeah, Mina used to have a joke. It's like, I just wanted my fresh breath. Why am I bleeding? It triggers the same protein sensory in the mouth as does cold temperatures. So if anything, it makes you feel cooler. So that's just wrong. So I don't know why these coaches were all chewing gum.
I
Uh,
think to me that sounds like anxiety. Like it's something to unconsciously do while, you know what I mean? Like I think or maybe the act of chewing, it keeps, you know what I mean, your mouth is doing something. I don't know.
yeah.
I feel like there's an anxiety because like this is you're a coach, you're stressed, people are flipping and clearly I don't know. You're actually talking about soccer. People are kicking. But like I do think
I'd watch
people
more
like
football if everyone's flipping around on the field.
yeah, yeah, people are like, what are you talking about? But I do think there's something about like my mom chews gum because of anxiety. I know that. I think it's comforting. So I do think
Well,
there's
because you
something
clench your jaws, but if there's gum there, you're just clenching the gum.
yeah, and it doesn't feel painful, but it also feels I know this is gonna sound so dumb, like almost like you're accomplishing something. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Um, but I think it's a comforting distraction. And I could see that's why they're doing it, but there's no way that it keeps them warm.
Yeah. Yeah. So wrong.
Yeah, everybody's wrong.
I had sharp pain in my toes when walking down the steps, and I was like, what's that about? And there were way too many different answers to this question. I don't even think my question was fully understood because it was like sharp shooting pains. I'm like, it's not a shooting pain, it was just a sharp pain. And then it was just, all of them ended with go to the doctor. So, but I don't feel it anymore. So I don't know what happened there. It was after yoga. I think maybe just working out and probably pinched some nerves or something.
Is it similar to, like a Charlie horse when you're like sleeping and you get this pain in your
Yeah,
calf?
but no, like it was like sharper than that.
Oh,
It felt like needles in the bottoms of my toes, like I was stepping on something sharp.
could it be the Raynoids?
Could
Right?
be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because like you get that in your fingers. What doesn't it? Isn't it all?
Yeah, but it doesn't like feel sharp. Like it was like when I stepped on it, it was like I don't know how to explain it to the internet either. Uh,
Yeah.
um, why is too much sodium bad? I like salt. I've just realized I eat so much fucking salt. I put salt on everything. When I make desserts, I like add way more salt than I should, and it's good. And it's just and like this is all like we all know this, but it causes high blood pressure, heart disease, and stroke. And like now that I'm in my 40s, I'm a little bit more worried about strokes because
Yeah.
like people we know just are dying.
Stroking.
They're
Yeah.
dying. I just feel like once you get to your 40s, you have like this bank of health. And then instead of like adding to it, so for future, you won't get osteoporosis. Like by the time you're in your 40s, it starts getting taken away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Toes are fucked.
Yeah.
And, and so uh I was just like, well, how much am I allowed to eat? And you're only supposed to have a teaspoon of salt per day.
Shut up.
That's it.
Fuck off.
That's it. So like, yeah. So if you have sushi, you're fucked for like a week. Um, that's it. And it says most Americans consume at least a teaspoon and a half, which I feel like still is underestimating how much salt.
I'm sorry, if you even just have a can of Campbell's soup, you have had enough salt for your life. It's
100%.
it's just salt. It's just,
Yeah.
like, salt and whatever else they put in
But if
there.
you had Ben and Jerry's ice cream, you've had your salt for the day.
Yeah, no, that's I mean, that's insane. A
Yeah.
teaspoon? Not
Yeah.
even a tablespoon, a
No
teaspoon.
teaspoon.
I think you're allowed more sugar in a day than you are
But
that's
get this, like if you drink more water, it actually flushes the sodium. So like if you do eat a lot of salt, drink a ton of water.
okay,
I love the concession. Yeah, all right.
fine. That's, like, fine.
Um,
I
and
just like the idea that, like, teaspoon, I'm like, just
yeah.
like just chugging water. "What are you doing?" "I had more salt."
Yeah, I had some fries. I need a fuckload of water. And also like you can tell you've had too much salt when you're bloated, yes, puffy, sometimes yes. Always thirsty. I'm always thirsty. Even when I'm drinking water, I'm thirsty. Chapped lips, which I have. And then there was like you pee a lot, which I'm always peeing. So I'm
I'm
like
always being
I've definitely taken in too much sodium there. But it was just one of those things that like I feel like in the 90s there was this big thing about salt. And then it's just one of those things you forget about. And you're like, who gives a shit about salt? Like you don't think about it and you just kind of add it as much as you want. Did you remember when there was all these like salt-free like Mrs. Dash and all
yeah.
that? It felt
Oh,
like a fad thing to worry about. And then I used
yeah, but
it's
everything that's low sodium, you're like, "Bleh."
it's boring. I don't want to live my life like that. And then
I'll
finally
just drink more water. I'll figure it out. It's like, you know how, like, with alcohol, they're just like, for every drink, you have to have, like, 8 ounces. It's just gonna be me with, like, a bunch of, like, just, like, cups everywhere. We're gonna like, I'm having a good time. I
yeah.
do I do know about sushi because, I don't know where I read it or whatever, but they're just like, you bloat a lot the next morning. So I know before a taping of anything, I never have sushi the night before. That's, like, a weird thing I've always known.
That's
And I
good to
think
know. Yeah.
and I especially because of the soy sauce.
Yeah, I think that would be I don't think it's because of the fish.
Yeah. Although,
Um,
I guess I don't know how you prepare raw fish. You
we
just nothing?
just
You
roll
just
with the shit. You don't. I had sushi the other day. I was like, this is so good. I was like, compliments to God, I guess. Oh man, I want some sushi now. What have you done?
So
Um,
sorry.
and then what is ultra processed foods? Which that's
What
another
is what?
ultra processed foods.
Ultra processed.
Yeah. And I think it's just all the foods we all eat all the time. I think what it used to be was like the Whole30 diet where you just eat natural foods. And then everything else is basically ultra processed food. So if you're not eating like whole vegetables, you're eating some processed shit. But like so like everything's processed. So it's like if you have whole wheat bread, it's processed. But if you have like peanut butter, but it's just kind of like ground up peanut butter and oil, and if it's not palm oil,
But you can see even with processed foods, there'll be stuff that has 4 ingredients and you know how to pronounce them. So
right?
that's like I would say that's processed food, but ultra processed in my mind is like salami. It's like a bunch of shit together and you don't really kind of know what it is. Or when you look at like a thing of Campbell soup and it's just a bunch of words you don't know.
Yeah, I love that salami was your example.
I love salami so much. I
Salami's
love
so
it. It's so
good.
good. It's like the most Italian I feel.
Yeah. Yeah, like spam. Yeah, so ultra processed is like it's like ice cream, sausage, crisps, which is chips,
Cool.
mass-produced bread, breakfast cereals, biscuits, which I think are cookies, um, carbonated drinks, fruit-flavored yogurt, instant, I think anything with sugar, anything you like, anything you enjoy,
Everything that's
cake,
good.
pastries. Um, So I was like, all right, there's no way to get away from eating. Like I eat ultra processed foods. I try to eat healthy. I think I eat healthy, but like there's no way to get away from it. You're gonna eat that. So how much can I have? And they're like, it says 25% of your daily calories is the most you should have of that kind of food. And like I don't go around drinking soda all the time and drinking like snack cakes from Little Debbie's as much as I want to. Not all the
Yeah.
time. But I did notice like Johnny's oven broke. Like we used to have like oven pizzas like at 2 in the morning or 12 at night or whenever he came home or whenever I got there. Uh, like almost every night we got into a habit of eating frozen pizza,
Goodness.
right? And then his oven broke and we just stopped doing that. And then I just started losing weight and I didn't put the two together. Because remember how I always talk about like I'm never losing weight. I exercise all the time. I don't
I'm
fuck weight.
so healthy, and you just black out from like midnight to 2 a.m. as you're eating 6 slices of pizza. I don't understand.
I don't
I
get
just
it.
have half a pie every night in the middle of the night. It's like,
And frozen pizzas are basically candy with
yeah.
salt.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
They're so fucking good. But and as late as I was having it, so like his oven breaking was the best thing that's ever happened to me. I think I dropped like since I got back in August, like at the end of August, I think I dropped like 8 pounds.
That's so
Um,
funny. I like the idea that you like text the super and he's like, I'll be right over. And you're like, don't come.
fix the oven.
Actually, just take the oven and throw it out.
Yeah. Yeah. So they fixed the oven and like, and then I started eating oven pizzas again. I was like, actually, I was like, I'm gonna have to like, because you build a habit with someone, you kind of
Yeah, and
like,
it's a bond.
yeah, exactly.
We're
I can't
both
bond with you.
dying slowly together, and that's what love is.
Yeah, so and then they said that like they did a study where some people had 2 servings of ultra processed food a day and other people had 4. And the people who had 4 servings a day died 10 years earlier than the
Nice.
other group, which I find amazing about studies is you really got to stick with it for like decades.
Yeah. You know,
Uh,
the people are like, I don't want to be in the study anymore. And they're just like, that's like sneaky, like they're following you.
yeah, yeah, you have no choice. Um, so so that's that. And I think that they also ultra processed foods also lead to stroke. Have I ever told you my fear of dying of like an aneurysm or stroke or something?
I believe so many times.
Yeah. So it's just like now I'm like, oh, I just gotta eat whole foods. I mean, I'm never gonna actually do that. I'm actually making cookies after this, but
But I feel like I've always said this, like I feel like my meals are healthy, but I snack hard.
yeah,
I
I've seen your snack cabinet.
Mine's a lot better. Yeah, it's so funny because we made s'mores the other day, and they now make marshmallows that are square and like flatter, and it's a
Finally,
game changer.
I
Game
mean, why did it take them so long? Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's just like, that's what people are using them for. And but now, I used 2 marshmallows and now I just have this huge bag of marshmallows and every time I open my cabinet, it, like, falls and I was like, "No, no."
That's so funny. I have this excess of marshmallows also because of Thanksgiving, and I wanted to make sweet potato casserole with the marshmallows on top.
Nice.
But I made some vegan ones and some regular ones, and the vegan ones, I'm sorry, they sucked. They didn't melt, and they were just there. But I have all this extra vegan marshmallow, so then I made some hot chocolate. And anyway, you can't get rid
We'll
of
be we'll be selling marshmallows on our Patreon. If you want them, you can
stale
buy
ass
them.
marshmallows.
Yeah, just like a literally like an envelope, and it's just like, "Here's your marshmallows." Oh, this was nice. I don't know how often we'll do these one-offs, but sometimes we just need to get out our Googles.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, then I guess you guys, thanks for listening, and we'll see you sometime soon.
Yeah, happy holidays.
Happy holidays, everyone. Bye.
Bye.